Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. Hi. That's nice. So today I'm going to be talking about all the worst things, or at least some of them. There are many bad things in this world, but I'll talk about a few. This is what it'll look like. I'll tell you a bit about myself, who I am, about speaking to machines and why that's horrible for me, about listening to humans and why that's horrible for me, and then about being myself and why that's horrible for me. So I come from Canada, like Sagan. Who knows Canada? Yeah, it's a huge chunk of land just north of America. We have the world's largest coastline. We have the longest street in the world. It's 2,000 kilometers. We made Bieber, and Drake. This is our Prime Minister. Yes, I met him. He's very handsome, but he's not a revolutionary, so he doesn't have my heart. But yeah, back to Canada. So I was born in a workers' co-op. My parents were living in a ghost town, and they, with a bunch of other weird friends, moved into this old building and tried to revitalize it. They were hippies and weirdos and war deserters and this sort of thing. And my parents had a lot of weird friends, and this is very relevant for who I became, because my entire childhood, these weirdos were revolving around my parents like some kind of solar system, including this one. So when I was growing up, there was a man who lived in his van in my driveway for a while. It was a white van like this. It didn't say candy on it. But he was my art teacher. He was my first art teacher, and I would credit him with why I got involved in games eventually. So basically, he thought I was going to be a world-famous artist, and so he was always trying to encourage me to make art. And one day in particular, I remember, he came in, and I was sitting there, and he said, "Why aren't you making art? You should be making art right now. This is your life. This is the moment of your life. You should be making some art." And I said, I don't have any art supplies. And he said, "Marie, anything is an art supply. Let's go into the kitchen. Let's get food, let's get utensils, and let's make some sculptures." And this is when I learned that you really can make art from anything. And this is when the world of art and games opened up for me. So maybe we'll skip through my teenage years where I ran away to art school, got really sick because I didn't know how to look after myself, eventually dropped out of school and went snowboarding for a year. We'll just skip through all that and say, I eventually did graduate into the workforce, and my background was not in games. I was working in building communities, creative expression-related stuff, and alternative education with high-risk youth. So they would choose what they wanted to learn, and I would just try and facilitate it with no money. But somewhere along the line in this alternative education and creative expression and my work with Wyrd Canada, I became really interested in play. But it wasn't exactly games. The kind of play I was interested in was this kind of play. So it was a state of being that I was interested in, this state of openness and curiosity and growth, this state that I saw people get in when they felt playful. They were no longer guarded, they were no longer defensive, and they were open to so much growth. As Einstein didn't say, but I think this is true. I think play is in a lot of ways the highest form of research and personal research in a way. So yeah, I became fascinated with this intersection between the game, this thing that the game developer brings, the structure and rules, and the play, which is an active state that the player brings. And this space kind of right in between here, like what happens there? What kind of growth happens there? I was interested in this enactment. So I had a brief jaunt into trying to make a game in Toronto, which I'll talk about later. And that didn't really work out for me. And so I kind of gave up on it for a while, but then it kept sticking in my head, this idea of play and games. And 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago, I decided to move to Berlin and just make experimental games. I just got on a plane and moved to Berlin. I didn't know any games people, I didn't know any games, I didn't know how to make games, but I just moved there. And someone told me to reach out to Torsten and Lorenzo, and yeah. So when I arrived in Berlin, the first thing that I saw was this free knowledge game jam at Wikimedia. And I reached out to them and said, "I'd like to volunteer." And they said, "Well, why not participate?" And I said, "Because I don't know anything about games." And they said, "That's fine, you should participate." And I said, "I just want to volunteer. feel insecure and I don't want to participate. And they said, okay. But then the day of the game jam, I showed up and they had made me this name tag. So, so I was too shy to talk to, I mean, everyone else there seemed to know people and I didn't know anybody and I felt so shy and nervous and I really felt like I had no skills. So they said, okay, anyone who has an idea, get up to the front of the room and pitch your ideas. Otherwise, join groups. And I thought, I have to pitch ideas because I'm too shy to talk to anyone, but I can hold the mic and I can just get up there and say like 20 ideas really fast. And that's what I did. I got up and I said 20 ideas and I found a team. My team got a bit diversive in a way. I had 2 developers and they decided they wanted to use different languages. And then they moved into different rooms at the game jam and refused to work together. But in the meantime, the rest of us made a paper prototype. And we won. Well, we won 3rd place, but we won something, and I mean, that's pretty amazing. There's Torsten's fingers, I think. He was one of the judges. That's how I met Torsten and Lorenzo, actually. Soon after that, I started making other games. This was my first real game, learning how to code. You can play it in the other room. We're just setting it up now. This is the first version, so it looks a little bit different. But this game, I was really interested in exploring this difficulty I have when I'm trying to connect with people. I don't know if anyone feels this way, but sometimes when I'm trying to connect and work with people, we make it so far and then I just kind of fail at intimacy. I fail at human connection. And so I was trying to make a game that would allow me to make that connection with people and allow me and the players to explore what that connection was between people. Like, what does cooperation mean? What does collaboration mean? And how do we work together? My next game gets even less game-like. So this is Auscault, and basically it's sonifying feeling. So I wanted people to be able to play other people like instruments. It could be great for sexy time in the bedroom. It could be great for just knowing what kind of impact you have on people. But so basically it took your pulse and your sweatiness, like the thing the Scientologists use, and your facial expressions, and it put that all into this program called Wikimedia, which is a machine learning for artists program. So it makes it really easy to train sets. And then it plugged all that into Ableton and changed the music based on how someone felt. But yeah, this question, I was just interested in looking at, is there a way to communicate without words? Like, do words get in the way of actually expressing ourselves? And like, is there a way to actually be honest with my body and not have to speak and hear other people's bodies? And then the next one I made, this was a VR game, and I made it on a Mac using the Oculus 1.1 dev kit, and this was like a year ago. So it was antique, but basically it was a VR game with a tattoo artist. So if you won the game, you got this tattoo of this fly that you killed in the game. And with this game, I mean, I was just really interested in virtual worlds. Like, are virtual worlds really virtual? Is there a part of us that's always kind of there? Is there a part of the self that's inescapable? And how our actions in virtual worlds don't really change those worlds. I mean, they might in certain kinds of code, but like, how do they change us? Yeah. And this is the most recent game I made. I was interested in people making decisions with their nose. I was going a little bit more low-tech. We have all these augmented body sensors and things to make our bodies smarter, but then we have this powerful organ right on our face that can interpret all kinds of information that we barely use. So this was a choose your own, that's me, yeah. This was a kind of a choose your own adventure game based on smell. And next I'm kind of interested in working with blockchain technologies. I was really caught by, like, I'm really into these weird worlds where people live, these like tech bros live. I'm interested in kind of like living on the edges of those worlds and just doing weird things. And with the blockchain, I'm really interested in this idea of distributed trust. They call it a trustless system, which isn't exactly accurate, but I'm interested in making a game where the core mechanic is an act of trust in the blockchain. So I don't know, this is where I'm looking forward. So yeah, that was a little bit about me. Now we get to complaining, which is I'm sure what everyone's most excited about. Yeah, so speaking to machines. So this is one of my biggest problems with learning how to code. 2 years ago, I didn't know anything about programming, and I just sat down and tried to program a game using C++. It was a bad idea. Don't do that, people. And I don't know, has anyone else had this experience? Was it hard to learn how to code, or was it easy? Hard? Easy. Oh no, one more. Little half easy hands raised. I can't really, I wrote a blog post about this. You can read it online. I won't go into all the details, but basically, my earliest memories of learning how to program are sitting in this classroom with these teachers saying, okay, everyone turn on your computer, and we all push the button, and then half the computers turn on. And then the teacher goes around, and we're all just waiting there. And all you have to do is not daydream. Like, you just have to stay there. It's an exercise in endurance, basically. And then, okay, now go to file. Okay, everyone go to file? No, half the people didn't figure it out. And so needless to say, I was terrible at this. And my computer teachers, I'd like a volunteer. Who wants to read this for me? This is my friend. This computer teacher was my friend. He told me this at a music festival outside of classroom. Can I get a volunteer? A reader? Yeah.
Marie, I like you. You're a talented and bright girl, but computers are just not for you.
Oh. Yeah. Okay, and then later on, different teacher. Who wants to volunteer? Short sentence.
I have to read it first. Identified?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know you were identified.
So this was another teacher of mine who thought that I had a learning disability because I was so slow, and yeah, I was pretty mean. And this is recent. This is 2 years ago when I was trying to make my game. This one teacher said, I was walking up to get a glass of water, and he was talking to another teacher, and he said, you know, it's really hard for the people who don't get it, but if they don't get it by now, they just won't. And I was the person. It was me. I was the slow one. And I proved him wrong. Yeah. So this is another teacher 2 years ago. When I asked, I didn't understand something. I already told you once, I don't care if you don't understand. I said it already. If you don't understand, you need to listen better. I'm not going to say it again. This is mean. This talk is going to be 3 hours if I complain all I should. I'm going to speed it up. So that's one problem. Learning is really hard. It's really hard to even know where to start when you're a beginner to game development. Like, there's all these tools and there's all these projects, and it's also overwhelming, and I didn't know where to start. This is a big challenge I had when I was learning how to program. I would have questions or problems, and someone would say this. Does anyone know what that means? Perfect. You're a really good participant. Yeah, read the fucking manual. It's a way to kind of shut down people who have questions. Sometimes it's merited, but a lot of the time it shuts down the wrong people, and yeah, it really sucks. So many yaks. Does anyone know what yak shaving is? No one. Oh. One person I'm really excited to tell you. So yak shaving is this act where you go to do one thing, but then that project somehow leads to a different project, which leads to a different, more obscure project, and then all of a sudden you're on the horizon shaving a yak. And you're like, how did I end up here? So yeah, the yak shaving is a big problem for me. So I'm not just going to complain. I'm going to tell you quickly some solutions to these problems that I found. One solution is find good teachers. They do exist. This was a good teacher I had 2 years ago who really helped me with Closer. Just saying, we can figure this out, and dancing around with me. Another solution is finding examples. Working examples on the internet or tutorials are really good. So for example, using open frameworks, which I was using, there are all kinds of examples that you can use and break down. Another solution for when you're feeling overwhelmed is just breaking things down into lists, starting with simple things and just play sound. Okay, I played a sound. Okay, now play sound when this happens. Okay, I did that. Yeah, and so on. Stop playing sound. Stop the thing, exactly. Another solution for the RTFM, assert your right to learn. So this is especially for shy people. You have a right to take up space, and you have a right to ask questions. And you have a right to ask questions that maybe there's an answer out there for already. And I think it's really important for people who are shy or new or beginners to just assert it and get out there. And another solution is fail a lot. This is actually a picture of me. I was on couchsurfing.com, and this guy offered me to burn down a barn that was in a hole. So yeah, but fail a lot, burn things down. Just wreck them, and I think that's really key. All right, so we've talked about machines, though a lot of that was about humans, which I think all things are. So listening to humans. How are we for time? Time? Okay. So first up, critics. So this was my first ever game, so even earlier than Closer. It was my attempt in Toronto. I had learned this incredible thing in life. This is the thing I learned. I got this job running this alternative education program, and I was promised all these amazing things, sailboats, these youth centers, all these youth, these cafes, all this amazing stuff. And I was hired for this job, and I got dropped off on my job the very first day, and there was nothing there. There were no youth, there were no sailboats, there was nothing. And I thought, hey, here's a... I said, oh, hey, here's an opportunity. I can either walk away or I can just build this thing. And so in this job opportunity, I saw this empty slate that I was promised all this stuff, and there was nothing there, and I just built it from scratch. And in this moment, I learned that everything in this world is built by people like us. People like us build amazes. People like us build hand-eye societies. People like us build all the things, all the games. And so I wanted to make a game that kind of communicated that, and this was my attempt at that. The feedback was pretty bad. All the people who played it, they all said it was really weird, they didn't understand it. A few said it's not like other games, kind of as a semi-compliment. And I bowed out. So I left. I was like, okay, I tried games. It didn't work for me for 3 years. This was before I came to Berlin. This was for my VR game. All these VR tech bros came, and they were like, it's weird. Is this art? How are you going to make money from this? Ew, is this a 1.1? And then there's also fans, and fans can be kind of problematic. Does anyone want to help me? Anyone want to come up and read with me? Don't make me do all the talking. Yeah, okay, wonderful. We have two. I need 2 people, so. All right, so fan number 1. Okay, so you can come right up, because it'll be easier for you to read. All right, so you can be, one can be him and one can be me.
So after him game thing. So who made this game?
Smile.
Right. But who made this game?
I did.
Right. So you did the visuals or the music, but who actually made it?
Me, I made all the game. I did the visuals and the music and the design, testing, creation.
Okay, but who actually made the game?
Me!
Just you?
No, not just me. Me on the shoulders of people who developed these libraries, maintained these libraries, documented these libraries, made online tutorials, taught me directly, made interactive art, organized creative code, and art game meetups, said encouraging words, fed me, had ideas about existence, created a culture / society / space where this kind of thing becomes possible.
Right, so not really you.
Thank you. That was a real conversation. Yeah, and not just once. I mean, this was just once, but other conversations like that. All right, so this one's pretty dark. Maybe I won't even read this one. I don't know, do people like dark? Okay, I need 2 volunteers then. Quick. Come on, 2 more. Yeah, I've got 2. Okay. Who wants to be him and who wants to be me?
I'll be him. I'll be the is he going to be a jerk? Okay. Have you made other games?
Yes.
Wow, I'd love to buy those other games. Where can I buy them?
They're installations, so you need someone to set them up. Happy to send you my my design and code for free, and you can build them yourself. Or I'm always happy to present at an event.
Okay, great. I'll fly you here, but I want a private showing just for me alone in my country. In my country house. How long can I rent you for?
I'm not open to doing private showings of my work.
Oh, just tell me how much and I'll do it.
Real conversation. Yeah. Solutions. All right, so solutions. getting validation from inside is really important. I know this is hard, but looking all the way back to critics, you really need to believe in yourself. And sometimes that's just believing that you'll fail and that you have the capacity to grow and move beyond these things. But you can't look to outside people, because everything that I've done in my life has taught me that outside people will sometimes not recognize good ideas when they see them. Sometimes they will, sometimes you're saying it wrong. Validation from inside is critical. A solution to these dudes at events, now I walk away sooner. I was gonna say something about treating them like NPCs, but I don't know. I just walk away sooner. All right, so last one, all the worst things, being myself. Right, so problem number one, feeling alone. I'm sure other people relate to this. It can often feel really lonely, and I can feel very alone making these games, doing these projects. I don't know, the communities have been very welcoming to me, but I also am alone. I don't have a team, and yeah, it's hard. Feeling like I don't belong here, I definitely feel like an outsider. I don't even know how to use game controllers. I've never played a first-person shooter. I really often feel, I remember the very first Amaze playtest thing I sat in on, and I was like, all these cool games people, I don't know how to use the controllers. Yeah, it's easy to feel like an imposter and an outsider. How to get out of bed despite the millions of frantic claw thoughts shedding me down into the endless nothing from which there is no escape. So I think this is living, right? Anyone felt like this before? Yeah, okay. A few, not too many. Very happy people. Yeah, anxiety, depression, these sorts of things, they're hard. So for loneliness, one solution is friends. There are lots of people out there who want to help you and drink 2 beers while you code. Give you tips. Yeah, if you're feeling lonely, there's lots of meetups out there and communities. You just have to try a bunch and you find good people eventually. Solution for feeling like an imposter. Okay, so I was thinking about this on the flight over, and I was really tired, as you know. But I was thinking, okay, you feel like an imposter. I think when you feel like an imposter and you feel like an outsider, you're paying too much attention to yourself. And it's like, when it's nighttime and you have the lights on and you look at the window and it looks like a mirror and all you can see is yourself. I think this is like a turn off the lights and look out the windows type of situation, where if you actually look around and look at the other people, you'll see all the ways in which they're outsiders too. Yeah, this is my best advice. That's what I've learned. And then for the abyss, I really want to mention this one because I think it's important. So for the abyss, depression, anxiety, these things, there's medication. Medication's great for some people. For some people, it doesn't help and makes things worse. So try it out if it's good for you. But one thing that I've really learned is that I have this checklist. And it's like, did I get enough sleep last night? Yes, I need 8 hours of sleep. That's too bad. I love to party, but I actually need 8 hours of sleep for my mental health. I need water. I need food. I eat regularly. I have timers that go off and remind me to eat. Meditation, even just sitting and breathing is good. And getting out in nature. This is all the stuff, the advice that people give you, but there's a reason. And if you can just kind of go through this checklist, a lot of these times will not be so bad. And then also, making fallow spaces, taking space for care and imagination, and saying no to things, because when you say yes to everything, Lorenzo, when you say yes to everything, it becomes hard to really have the experiences. You have to say no to some things. Saying no to some things is saying yes to other things, and you need space. Without space, you'll lose all your creativity, and you burn out, and it's horrible. So one thing that I do is often, not always, but often on Sundays, I go no screens. And it's horrible for me because everything's on the screens. But also it's amazing. The Sundays just stretch out like a summer vacation. I'll clean my house, do everything on my list, get everything I need, go to the market, make some art, play guitar, and then it's 11 a.m. So yeah, I really recommend it. Just taking some space away from the screen, not because screens are bad, but because so much of our pinging and to-dos is connected to these screens. And then lastly, just be aware that sometimes these challenging experiences, I mean, there's post-traumatic stress and PTSD, but there's also post-traumatic growth, and there's growing and learning from hard experiences. That's really important. One more solution. So for me, a big solution to this horrible abyss is giving back. So for example, soon, very soon, I'm doing a workshop here for total beginners. So it's the workshop that I wish I had had 2 years ago when I started making games. It's less of a, here's an introduction to stencil, and more of a, here's why it's so fun to think about ideas for games, and here's why it's so fun to think about interactivity. It's less of a like teaching someone how to sail and more of a teaching someone how to long for the endless sea. That's a real expression, right? Does anyone know that? Anyway, yeah. So this is something that's really working for me, is giving back. Really helps with the abyss, which is actually the worst one of all. Anyway, thanks so much for listening to me complain. I have lots more complaints, so come talk to me if you want to hear about all the horrible things. Thank you.